Creativity is at the core of who we are, and I think it's what defines us as humans. Creativity is at the core of innovation, and innovation is what's driving the change in the world.
She's an award-winning fine artist whose work has been featured in major publications like Business Insider, LA Weekly, and Fine Art Connoisseur. She's also a TEDx speaker, and in today's episode, we break down the exact mindset required to harness the power of your own creativity. We have the inspiring Stefanie Bales on the show.
There's this weird stereotype around artists. I got a lot of negative feedback. How are you going to make money, or what are you going to do for real?
Anyone listening to this, if you were thinking about, okay, what's it going to take? What can you do to turn this into a must?
I spent years just literally showing up to everything. Every event, every peripheral, networking, lecture, any event at the museum. I started introducing myself to people. I just started talking out loud about what I wanted to do and who I was and what I was building.
How do they go about determining what to let go of? And how do they go about determining what to pursue?
I always say,
we've had a lot of new listeners recently, which is super exciting. If you're one of them, welcome and thank you. Every week, we're bringing you the guests and the conversations that enable you to become the most extraordinary version of yourself. If that's what you're here for, I have a small favor to ask. If you could look down at your device right now and tap the follow button to follow the show, that'll make sure you never miss an episode. And that way, we stay connected on this platform as well. It only takes a second. It's completely free to do. And it really helps a small team like ours reach the people who are also committed to performing at their best. Thank you so much. Now let's get into today's episode. As a fine artist, an award-winning fine artist at that, what do you believe about creativity and its importance to us as humans?
creativity is at the core of who we are. I mean, I think it's what defines us as humans, and separates us from robots, one, in the new AI age. But I think really creativity is what makes each of us individual. It's what defines every single genre of life that we're living in and of industry that exists. I mean, because without innovation, like creativity is at the core of innovation, and innovation is what's driving the change in the world. So, I mean, at large, I think it's as big as that.
How have you found your individuality over the years?
I mean, I think that sort of always relates back to the question people always have, like, how long have you been an artist? And I'm like, I can't remember a time not being an artist. Like ever since I could, hold a crayon, as I say, it's just been a part of who I am. And so I feel like creativity in essence it's always been part of me. I don't need to find it. It's more like how I'm using it that has evolved over the years.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So, because from that, I like the word individuality, like finding and expressing our individuality in that regard. Take us through the past. Like, where did that come from? How did you have that crayon? Did you just know how to draw straight away, for example?
I mean, sort of. I do feel like as artists, there's like an innate kind of talent. And I always compare artists sort of to athletes. Like, you need to hone your craft. Yeah. Like, you need to practice. You need to put in the 10,000 hours in any industry, really. But you're either born with that skill set and that capability or not, most of the time. I'm not going to say 100% of the time. So I think that it's just how much you attend to it, how much you invest in it, and if it's something that you want to pursue. But I know I veered off the original question a little bit. So for me, it's just, luckily I had support growing up. It was always something that was encouraged for me to
from a family
point of perspective. Yep. And I do not come from a family of artists or creatives at all. So they just always encouraged it. I think they saw that innate talent. I always just had an eye for it, and any opportunity to make something, to draw, to paint, I was always doing it. Like, that's how I spent my time as a kid. I took classes. I ended up getting my BFA in painting. I fought that a little bit because I was like, that doesn't seem like a very practical thing to do, especially like 20 years ago. And I just, trusted my gut. And I was like, this is a talent that I definitely have, that other people can see. And I want to see it through. We'll see what happens.
From a support standpoint, then, how did they support you? Was it through supporting you, going to classes, things like that? Or was there certain language and ways that they went about supporting you where you felt like you had a path that you could follow and be supported in?
I mean, so when I was a kid, I was like, I want to take classes. I want to do all these things. I took the AP art in high school. They just allowed me and encouraged me even to do the things that I wanted to do and follow my, as we say, passion. So they encouraged me in that way. But I feel like when I look back, the real kind of make or breaking point was when I was applying to college. And they were the ones who kind of almost convinced me to get an art degree, which I feel like is this total opposite of what you hear from every other artist. They're like, go to law school or be a doctor, and they were like, I think they just, it was so invaluable to me to have their trust and their support. And so I went to a university that had a fine art program. So I graduated with a BFA, but I still wanted to have my options. And I was every which way trying to find something else to do because it didn't seem like a very practical thing.
What were some of the other things that you?
Well, I tried to create my own major between like art and neuroscience, which is actually really interesting if we get into it in the evolution of the art that I make and how those two things actually played out. But the college was like, no. And then, I was always really interested in psychology and philosophy, human behavior. But those things at a basic level are still very like liberal arts or still sort of abstract. So I was like, I don't know what I would do as a profession with those either. So it just always kind of went back to, I almost had to fight it. And I was like, if the whole world is telling me that I should pursue this and then, I'm looking for reasons not to, I need to just quiet the noise and just, go for it and see what happens. So
take us to that moment then. Was it a single moment where it switched back over of going, you know what, I'm actually going to listen rather than try to fight it?
I didn't even apply to the university as an art major, but was accepted as one. So I was like, that's weird. And I still to this day, I'm like, I don't really know how that happened. But, and then I think it really wasn't. It was just, I was taking art classes and just the general education courses. And so I was just doing those to fulfill my, the coursework load. And I just was like, I don't know. I didn't have any other reason not to. So there was no other direction that I was going to take. So I rode the wave, as I like to say, which I've continued to do throughout my life and career, and it's worked out for me. So I just, it was easier to just do it than to not do it somehow.
Yeah. When you went after it then, what changed?
I can't say that there was any pivotal. It was still a very much like, all right, now I have to make a plan for what's next.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have one. And at that time, I have to say, I grew up back east. There's a very different kind of culture and mentality around being a creative and the lifestyle. Everything's it's just a little bit more rigid. And so I got a lot of negative feedback, actually, like, oh, what are you going to do with that now? Or how are you going to make money? Or what are you going to do? I love the like quotes for real. And I was actually a very academic student. I got a partial like merit scholarship to go to the school. I was like very academically sound, but there was almost this assumption that like I wasn't skilled in anything else because I was pursuing art. And there's this like weird stereotype around artists that I just spent a long time feeling like I had to defend myself around it, which was very interesting. After I graduated, I moved out to San Diego, and I feel like it was a total shift in.
Really?
Absolutely. It was like.
Did you make the shift because of the negativity or the bad feedback, or was it other reasons?
Not intentionally. It was like just a happy surprise. But I graduated with an art degree and was 21. It was like, well, now what? And so San Diego just called and I followed the call. But no, so I didn't know anything. I've been to San Diego maybe one time on a family vacation. It was just. Again, I get these things in my head and I'm like, that seems like what I should do. And so I just do it. Yeah. But no, it was just a pleasant surprise. And I feel like when I got here, everyone was like, oh my gosh, like that's so awesome. Tell me about your practice. Like, what are you doing? What's your plan?
It was like reinforcing.
And it was like excitement over it, I think, because also, and again, this was 20 years ago. I think the conversation's totally different now. Or more than 20, when I graduated 20 years ago. Yeah. Right. So I think it's a different conversation now, but I did find that the conversations that I was having with people in the California and the West were very different. And it was a total shift in kind of the way that I was thinking about it too. And the possibilities of what was next for me out here just seemed so much more exciting. And there's so much more potential out here for who knows what.
How important then has it been to have people around you that support? Because it sounds you had that growing up.
Yeah.
Then there wasn't that.
Yeah.
From the East Coast. Yeah. Then you've gone over to San Diego where you are now. And it sounds like there was a supportive network there as well. 100%. So how important has that supportive foundation been for you?
Paramount. Yeah. I don't think that I would be doing it if I didn't have that. Because there's so much just, the negativity and the noise can really sit with you if you let it. And I think you often need to talk yourself out of things or into things, and having any other feedback that's positive is just so, for me at least, just so, I needed that encouragement. I needed that push. I think because my practical brain and my like East Coast kind of type A personality a little bit at the time was like, we need to do something that's going to be, just more practical and more efficient and more like directive in terms of like laying out the next 5 or 10 years or whatever that looked like. Right. So I credit my entire career in very large part to having champions, to having community, and having people really encouraging me and excited about what I'm doing.
Sometimes you need it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need it. There was a moment that I had a few years ago where, a friend of mine had just gone through a really challenging period about 5-6 years ago, and just on a call, having a conversation about the challenges going through. And she just said, you always come out stronger than before.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wanted to fight it in that moment because I'm like, oh, you don't understand. This is going on and this is going on. But, I got off the call and I'm like, you know what, she's right.
Yeah.
And I needed that in that moment because I didn't feel strong enough within myself in that moment. I didn't feel strong enough to ride the waves, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so it is important. Yes, massively important to build that in your own self, right. Because there's going to be some times where people aren't around, or there's going to be some times where the negativity outweighs the positive voices, and ensuring that we've got our own internal conviction about where it is that we're going and why we're going there, I think really, really matters.
Yes.
Yeah. How have you then gone about building something? How have you gone about building a brand? How have you gone about building, because you have your gallery, an amazing gallery in San Diego now, which has won an award, didn't it?
Yes, the past couple of years.
Yep.
Just like a People's Choice. So there's all these like best of San Diego, kind of like, it's like polls basically. So it's the People's Choice for best gallery.
Love it. So
which
good.
is fun. And I mean, it's a fun little flex, but also there are some like very prestigious galleries who are showing international artists. And I'm not trying to to say that I'm competing with them, but I think it's a testament to, like I said, the champions that I have and the community that I've built. And people show up for me. And again, as I said, I wouldn't be here without that. So I think those things it's like, it proves that you're doing things the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to keep rolling with it.
So how have you gone about then building and thinking about the creation of art while also at the same time building something that people perceive as valuable in a way, right? Because you mentioned before that, when it comes to artists, there is a subjective piece to that about whether it's seen as and perceived as valuable.
Right.
How have you gone about blending the two together? Do you think about them separately? How do you go about doing that?
I feel like I could spend an hour talking about this. It's such a loaded, so to start, I very kind of slow rolled into being a professional full-time artist. I wasn't like about to move to LA and just be like, I'm going to just try to make it and like see what happens. That was not a lifestyle that I wanted. I very much am intentional about curating my life and the work that I'm doing to like to help create the life that I want.
Right.
And so that was always kind of really important to me from the beginning. But I was a professor of art and design for about 10 years after grad school, where I spent that time really building my portfolio, finding my voice, slowly building the brand that I really say that was a defining point in my career, where I stopped thinking about the work that I make just as its own little bucket and thinking about me and the work that I'm making together as this larger brand that has a bigger voice and more dimension. So that shift of being like, I'm creating this ecosystem almost, and I'm starting small. But that's a word that I like to always think about, because I'm always adding new arms to the business. And it's still strange to me today to talk about the art that I'm making and what I'm doing as a business, because you're in art school. No one talks about that at all. I mean, you're not thinking about being an entrepreneur, about having a business at all. You're thinking about making art and maybe selling it. But like the idea of owning a business was never really something that I conceptualized. So I kind of started reshifting my thinking around what that was going to look like and what the potential was. And I kind of slow rolled over those 10 years. And then I was finding that I was not able to do my personal work and take on the different commissioned work and partnerships I had and like continue my professorship. And I had a 3-year-old at the time. So it was like, one of these things has got to give.
Get rid of the 3-year-old, right?
3-year-old's out. So I was like, well, he's obviously not going anywhere. And that's only going to get harder and more busy. Yeah. And I was like, I just can't, again, one of those like pivotal moments, like I can't give up this. And I have this kind of momentum that's rolling, and it was terrifying, but I did. I quit my professorship. And I loved teaching too. It was always something that came very natural to me. I still keep in touch with so many of my students today, but, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so this is a story. I know I'm answering this in a long way, but I think it's really valuable. Yep. Like I talk so much in general about just making space and leaving space for things. And sometimes I say riding the wave or like not fighting things when they come to you one way or the other. But I left my teaching job. I think it was the end of June. We finished up that last week and I was like, here we go. And there was this tiny little retail space 2 blocks from where I lived that I walked by every single day. And I, for years, was manifesting that space. And I was like, this is going to be I'm going to have my gallery here. I'm going to have my little studio. Like I'm manifesting this space for years and years and years. Within 3 weeks of me leaving my professorship, the space became available.
Damn.
And I swept right in. And a month later, I had the keys. And I was like, and here we are. And that was really the start of the next step. But it never would have happened if I didn't have room for it, if I hadn't made the space for it. And I haven't made that decision to really invest in myself and my potential and like leave that thing that was stable. And, I had no reason I had no reason to leave outside of that. So yeah, that's when things really took on a new life.
Yeah. It takes real courage to do that as well, because you're leaving something comfortable.
Yes.
In that way. And that can be pretty damn scary at times. And at the same time, because what I find fascinating about what you shared there is that you left something that you actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the toughest things isn't so much, okay, what am I going to get rid of? It's what am I going to get rid of that I enjoy?
Yeah.
It's really tough because like you could have easily stayed there and it would have been in comfort and you would have continued to enjoy it. But that's that ability to be able to, and having, again, from a courageous standpoint, to remove something that you actually enjoyed for the purpose of creating space of something that may be even better or maybe more aligned, may be able to express my individuality more. It takes a really courageous leap there.
Yeah.
How would you recommend for those listening to this, how do they go about determining what to let go of? And how do they go about determining what to pursue?
I mean, that's still honestly something that's a pain point for me now.
Yeah, right.
Because there's like so much goodness. And in so many ways, I'm still sort of, despite the growth of the business, like I'm still in many ways a one-woman show because I'm making the art. I am the brand. Like there's not much, there's not as much I can outsource. So I find I'm constantly like in that rat race, and it's something I struggle with. But I mean, I always say, trust your instincts, like trust your gut. What does your gut say? I think we often let our brain or our kind of like what makes the most sense or what's the most practical or what's going to make us the most money. And we always follow those things. And I've always just tried to, try to be as self-actualized as possible, be like, what's really feels right, what feels in alignment and integrity in my life right now. And also, what is this going to mean for my life outside of work or this decision? And I think that's, again, something I always come back to. How is this going to change my day to day? Or how is this going to change the larger footprint of my life moving forward? So it's a lot of just kind of abstract thinking in that way. But I mean, for artists specifically, I think there are, I get asked the question a lot about, when to like quit my corporate job and just like try to go do it. And I think that's a really tough thing to do, because it's also one thing. I wasn't in a career where I was making, $500,000 a year.
Right,
So it wasn't
right.
like, oh, I'm leaving this huge thing to like make paintings. So I think everyone has their own positioning, but I also don't think it's bad to just do it on the side. If you can do it on the side, do it. And then there's less pressure, because once you do commit, there's a whole new pressure to like really make it work. And then you start losing, or it's easy to lose your integrity in terms of why you're doing it in the first place, in terms of the work that you're making. And I think this can translate into any career or industry. But when you start doing it because you're like, well, now I need to make money from it, it changes it entirely, or it can if you let it. So
this is where I question a little bit the burn your bridges in that way of like, you burn the bridge behind you of, okay, like quitting the job, doing this, like, because then there's no way back. I think burn the boats, came from, that's the Vikings. They would burn the boats, and then there's no way back. The only way is forward. And in many cases, rock on.
Right.
And I think there are a certain number of cases where that is completely irresponsible. If you've got a family that relies on your income, as an example, and you just go, you know what, I'm just going to quit, and you leave that, and then it comes down to then, okay, can you manage the stress of that? Can you manage the fear of that? Can you manage the doubt? Can you manage the money not coming in for a period of time? And part of that is understanding, okay, is there a bit of a financial cushion that you potentially have, for example? But the other part is very psychological, is because if you are in a state of scarcity, if you're in a state of, I don't know if this is going to work out, it comes across in your conversations. And if you're trying to sell something to somebody and you know that you need the sale, there's almost a neediness that can come in there, and that repels people. Yeah. Whereas if there's this is okay if it doesn't work out, there's an attraction, like it's a pull type of pulling in, right? And so I think there's a time and a place for that. It depends. It really does depend on each person's situation, each person's scenario. And I'll go on the opposite side of that to go, don't let that stop you though, because then it could be a way to be able to play small still.
Yeah.
What a lot of people are trying to work out is, okay, what am I going to do next? And I think if maybe that's a premature question, that instead, if you could ask, how is it that I want to feel next? Yeah. That you can get some clarity on. Like, usually people might not know what they want to do next, but what I'm going to do next is you needing certainty about something you don't have clarity around yet. But you know what you want to feel next. You want to feel like you're able to create. You want to feel like you're aligned. You want to feel happy or content, or whatever the thing is that those listening are wanting to feel. Like, once you have that, then you can go into, okay, what could I do that would enable me to experience that, right?
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think so much of the way that we live should be about that. Because again, I think it's like our brain versus our hearts and our whole, like, you want to think about it all holistically always, but sometimes there's something in life or circumstances that are leading you to go one or follow one kind of pull versus the other. But it's just, I mean, you said it already. There's nothing I need to add to that. But I do think that as an artist, it's easier because we're trained, like, so much of what we do is emotive to start with. So I'm always in that space. Like, I'm always in my head. I'm always kind of just have that perspective of like looking around and like noticing things and sitting in things. And it's one of the privileges, I'd say, of being an artist and having that kind of brain. So
with that brain, where there is looking around, there's noticing different things, there's a lot of variety there. There's a lot of different components. Do you find yourself having to reel yourself in order to be disciplined, for example, and to get things done?
There's like the idea of writer's block or creative block. Like, I have never experienced that. Right. I am always like abundance, almost too much though. So, because there's just so many things you want to do and make, and
well, then you have to be able to determine what am I going to let go of, what am I going to pursue, right? Yeah.
I think this is where I found success as an artist and as a business person, is because I actually am very middle brained. So I love an Excel sheet. I love lists. I'm very good at math. Like, I have that brain where that comes very naturally to me. So I'm not the kind of aloof artist who ends up like overly conceptual and just in dreamland, despite my paintings, I call them dreamscapes. So, but so it does, I'm very disciplined. And I've, like I said, always kind of been very academic and very studious. So, I'm also very efficient. A lot of my, like the East Coast things, I've abandoned a lot of that, and like really found myself out here, but, or out in San Diego now, but I have a couple of those things that have really stuck.
Like the traits?
Like punctual. I'm extremely punctual. You need to be organized because there's so many different things happening at once.
Yeah.
So there is always an overwhelm with just the number of things happening and all the roles that I'm playing. But it's something that I think is a way that I've found, personally, that I've been able to find success in doing what I'm doing because I'm able to kind of do both.
Both pieces are
naturally,
important. And it feels natural. Yeah. I remember when I first moved to the US, someone said from the East Coast, they were in New York, said, it's not that we're rude, it's that we're efficient. I'm like, that makes so much sense.
I don't have time to,
It's like, either we're gonna do the deal or not, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let's get in and get stuff done. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes to building from a branding standpoint, how much of that has been from I guess people coming to the gallery, the relationships that you're building in person, or, one-on-one versus, say, social?
Right.
And online platforms where you've built, a pretty solid following in that regard as well.
So I always say this is like a hill that I'll die on, is that I am an in-person person, which again is not typical of most artists, which is just kind of an interesting thing that I always reflect on. My whole career was built on face-to-face. So I spent years just literally showing up to everything, every event, every peripheral kind of networking, lecture, any event at the museum. I started introducing myself to people. I just started talking out loud about what I wanted to do and who I was and what I had, what I was building. And I think I've been, again, almost 8 years now, and I still, that's still just my preferred way. I of course have a presence online. I think social media is the new portfolio. So you sort of have to. And there was a time when I really loved, like building community there. But honestly, if you look at my following, half of those people I know personally.
Really?
I know. Yes. And this has always been something that's kind of who I was too. My nickname used to be Class Prez because they're like, I just know, like, they're like, how do you know all these people? And that's just one of the, I guess, maybe a gift, but also just a joy. Like, I love meeting people and learning their stories and really getting to know. I find something that I love about every person that I meet. So anyway, but then you find people when you're doing that who are interested in what you're doing, and you kind of have this this relationship where, again, I found some champions who are really like wanting to support the work that I'm doing. And now I'm finding, as I'm continuing to like really grow and be at this point where I am like bursting at the seams, it's limiting though, because I'm only can be so many places. So you can't scale yourself, right? And so I think it was, I'm a big fish in a small pond, so to say, in San Diego, as in terms of the art scene, relative to a lot of big cities. But it's something that I'm trying to navigate now.
Yeah. Because
there's no way avoiding, just being online and being global. You can't, you can only go so far, so fast.
Yeah. And I think the opportunities that are plentiful could be in different countries, could be in different locations. Someone comes across. I remember there's a song that I wrote many years ago now. It's like, wow, 15 years ago now. And it reached people in every single country around the world. It was used by kids in school projects, dance projects, film projects to help tell their story. It was a song about bullying and suicide. And that like never would have reached for them if I hadn't utilized those technologies. And it has me wonder as well, my great grandfather on mum's side was a poet.
Oh.
And he wrote a bunch of poetry between 50 and 110 years ago. Crazily, I never really even knew about this until my nana passed away, and we were cleaning out some of her stuff in the house, and And Mum I remember having this box of books, and she threw them out and like placed them down in the hallway. And I just said, "Oh, Mum, what are those?" And she said, "Oh, they're part of Godfrey's old poems." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Yeah, he used to write all this different poetry." And I knew he'd won this award, or some kind of an award, but I didn't really think anything of it. I was going, "Oh yeah, it was just like one thing." But he wrote through World War, like wrote poetry, sent the poetry back to Australia. They got printed in the newspaper back home. The reason I share this is that there was it must have been a small interview that he did at some stage, and asking about the career. Now this is going, we're looking at back, 50 to 110 years ago. Social ain't anywhere near coming in. And he was a dairy farmer, and he said there's along the lines of there's no money in poetry. Is I'll do this as a love, and I'll go and do this elsewhere. And I wonder, like, if he was alive today, because you do have folks that write beautiful poetry in this example and other creative forms as well, with just this specific example here, might it have been different? Because some of it is incredible.
I don't want to diminish the platforms that exist. I mean, obviously they have done a lot for me. So I don't want to say that they haven't been helpful and that I don't exist on there. And I very am active. I'm very much active. I think it's just not at the core.
Well, your number one piece is relationships, right?
Exactly.
I think if we can understand like just how important relationships are, I think largely it enables us to bypass a normal application process. Because if you've got an RFP for something, like you've got to put in a tender for something, and someone says, "Oh, we want a mural for the side of the wall," like, put in your application for it. And if you're just like in there with everybody else, you've got no leverage. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a way of bypassing that normal application process, often it's going to come through relationships, through an introduction.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because that was one of the things I was going to mention in the prior conversation when you're talking about like making the leap to leave the big corporate job or to leave whatever you have currently behind to start something new. And I think a better way to think about it is like, how can you leverage that position, those people, like that place that you are in, to help guide the next steps for the next thing? And maybe that's not abandoning it. Maybe that's saying, look at the access that I have because I'm in this role, and what can that do for me? But I think, it all comes down to relationships either way. Whatever the end goal of the conversation is, I think people are power in every sense of the word. And I think I'm curious as the digitization and the AI and all of that continues to grow and kind of change the way we navigate. I feel like the more human, we're going to crave that again. And I think that's already starting to move that direction. But
I agree.
I'm really curious to see how that pans out.
When we really realize the power of an in-person conversation like this, for example, or an experience that we have with someone, and especially as things become indistinguishable from real life online, I'm very curious as to, does an in-person experience, an in-person conversation, a real world experience become more valuable?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is probably yes.
I hope so.
I definitely hope so, because it is going to become like this, for example, or events, or going and looking at a piece of art, or going and seeing a band play would be another example, is being able to witness something. I want to witness something that is real. I don't care how remarkable this is. Yes, I would say I do that with a caveat, because like AR and VR is like, that's like incredible experiences. Absolutely rock on. But then there's some things that I want to witness the actual thing itself. Yeah. I just know how fucking difficult it is to get really good at something, and the thousands and thousands of hours that it takes, and to be able to then witness somebody else in action, or be able to converse with someone that is on a similar wavelength, versus just looking at something that has been created in the space of a minute, just because it can, and you can put in a prompt, for example. I don't see nearly as much value in that.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think, it's easy for us to say as artists though, right? Because we live in it. We're the ones spending those thousands of hours. Like, not everyone has that point of view or understanding, but I think the word that kept coming to mind when you were speaking was just, I think that we, and people will start craving the tangible, right? Because we can like see things, but do we believe them? Do you don't believe everything you see, and especially online, but like those tangible experiences. I still have never read a book on a Kindle. Like I want to hold the physical book. I want to flip the pages. Like I just love and value that experience. And that's again where I think like putting my art even online, it's not the same. Every time someone sees it in person for the first time after seeing it online, they're like, it feels so different. It looks sort of the same. You lose a lot of the dimension and the texture, but it feels different when you're experiencing it firsthand. And that's not something that all the technology in the world is going to be able to replicate. That, again, that feeling and that the experience that you're having when you're witnessing it, in real life.
Do you think we could get to that point? I guess the things are going so incredibly fast. Because I think about it with like a conversation like this as well. Online, like the remote interviews that we do for the show are fantastic, and we still have great conversation.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like sitting across from someone and sitting down and having a real conversation. I wonder though, give it another 5 years, 10 years. Back in my final year of school, I had singing lessons over the phone on speakerphone because there wasn't a singing teacher in town. Now there's a whole advancement when it comes to different platforms that we can utilize to connect over video. And there's things like, have you seen Google Beam?
I have heard of it.
Have you heard of it? Yeah. It's like these cameras set up, I think, on different angles, and you can't really tell like when you're watching a video, but you look at the person's response going, it feels like the person is across from me, which is wild in its own right. So I wonder, is it going to get to a time where someone can look at your art in a VR experience, or an AR experience where they're in their own home, and then all of a sudden it's on the wall and they're looking at it and they're just going, this feels amazing.
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also probably not the one to speak to that because I'm so not adverse to it. It's just not like my brain doesn't compute to me in the way that I like see things and I navigate the world. And a lot of that is very abstract to me. So the technology is just, it's a little foreign, even though I understand it and I can use it, the like capacity, like the whole larger picture of it is just a little bit not. My brain doesn't make sense of it in the way that a lot of people are able to comprehend and then use it and kind of.
Well, one of the things that just thinking about this could be, all right, let's say a city is thinking about getting you to do a mural or, on one of the buildings, and they want to have some form of an understanding as to what's that going to look like.
Yeah.
They take one of the murals, for example, that you've done elsewhere, and all of a sudden have that, and they go, you know what? All of a sudden maybe it eases the sales cycle where it's you're not having to overcome as many objections as to why it's valuable. Maybe that increases the value in that way. Maybe I don't know.
Robots just paint it.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a whole other piece.
I think
isn't it?
the actual, like, I mean, there's so many places it could go. I think
it's wild, isn't it?
The like human intuition brain, like no robot can have my exact brain and like my output. So I think that's the special part. The production of it, I'm really curious about how that goes. But I do think there is, everyone has their own hand. Everyone has their own way they play. So
yeah.
But
that's what keeps it unique as well. I remember seeing it's like a meme or something online of AI robots were here to do dishes or do this or do that, and take care of all the boring tasks. And here we are still doing that, and that's creating art and music and all of that. So
frustrating. Yes, that is the plight of all artists. Oh my gosh, yeah. Do the grunt work for us. I don't have time for that. It is. I mean,
are you hopeful?
I am. Yeah. I mean, I think I would generally say that I'm optimistic just about things in general. I mean, there's so many conversations you could have, but I feel like I've gotten this far.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. So maybe it's more like that. It's hard to say what's coming, but I feel like you just, you ride the wave. So I'm here for it. We'll see.
What is the vision that you have for the coming years then as an artist and as a business as well and a brand?
So I have kind of two platforms, like the personal work that I do and the art that I'm making. I would love to be able to spend more time actually making art and less time actually doing the business part of it.
Yeah.
So we'll see if I can figure out that. But so that's like so many things I could say. So I do think that I'm at the point right now where I'm spreading my wings. Not that I have.
How so?
Well, because again, I very intentionally, and because of my young kids and all that, built my business very hyper locally in San Diego. And I'm considered even like a cultural ambassador for San Diego. So I have partnerships with a lot of the institutions, the tourism authority, all of that in San Diego.
Right.
And I have collectors internationally, but I was really focused on that kind of building from the ground up there. So I think in terms of spreading my wings, I'm looking for kind of bigger opportunities, and I'm ready to like branch out of San Diego a little bit if it feels right. So geographically. But I also have really just in trying to navigate this career as an artist found that I go to so many, conferences and lecture and courses and all the things, and I have never found anyone who's like doing what I'm doing. And I'm sure that someone exists somewhere, but I don't have a mentor. I don't have anyone who I can like ask questions to, or can help be like, oh, this is what they did. So like, this makes sense. Like, there's no linear path. I'm always kind of just like testing things out and just doing things my own way. And it's working out, but I very much want to kind of be that, I guess, for the next, I don't want to say the next generation, but to be like proof of concept. Like, how can I pay this forward? How can I teach people what I know? How can I maybe help you skip all of these like hard lessons that I've had to learn by being taken advantage of? Or there's just a very lack of education around art and artists and like what it looks like, what running the business is, how to be successful as one. And I think there's also just a lot of talk in all directions. Anyway, so part of my kind of larger mission outside of just obviously like I would love my work to live in every house and building all over. That would be great. But I'm really trying to kind of build this platform and this ecosystem that is bigger than that. And that can be a place where it's showing the value of art and artists globally more than I think what people think about when they think of it. Like, it's something you decorate space with. And I think art is so much more profound than that. And I think that like cities should be supporting artists more, funding artists more. I think funding, we haven't even talked about money at all related to this, but it's like the wild, wild west. So, I just, without turning that into the next 2 hours too of conversation, like there's so many different things that I've learned that I want to I'm trying to hone that in and like package it in a way that I can see to kind of educate and to help there be more artists, more creatives. It's almost raising up
the entire industry versus it being about yourself, or
it's a hard thing to kind of to verbalize, but yes, I'm very passionate about the individual work that I'm making, but I'm more concerned with the larger ecosystem and finding ways to help other artists be supportive, to be able to make a living doing it. I think that the value of what we provide to society as artists, as creatives, is very undervalued and very underpaid. And so that's another platform that I'm kind of trying to like just speak about all the time.
Right.
Because I think the conversation needs to be had. And so much of art is subjective. So much of the value of art is subjective. And I think our contributions are tenfold to what the perception is, or to what we reap back from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you see the return is when it comes from a value standpoint? It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be other means. What is the return that comes from art? You mentioned about it being undervalued. And then what could be done to increase the perceived value?
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's on a city basis or an individual basis. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think because art is subjective and the making of it is subjective, and most people don't know what it takes. Like, they think you just show, you're going to paint the side of a building. Like, you just show up with your paint and you just like do it. It's not the processes for it. So it's just such a common, like, everyone wants a discount. Everyone wants to find whoever's going to do it for free or for less. And so there's just really like, it feels a little icky because it's making artists compete against each other. Like, speaking of RFPs, like who is going to do it for the littlest amount of money, who can do it the most capable. So it's just this weird thing. And artists, we want to be, we're wanting to be a community and to support each other and to learn from each other. But the ecosystem around other people hiring artists to do work is very sort of like cutthroat sort of, or like low, everyone's trying to lowball. So we're trying to make a living and being like, we have this huge thing to offer. And again, for me at this point in my career, like I'm not going to be hired or be commissioned at an intern level salary because I'm not there anymore. But half the time the client doesn't understand the difference in value that they're getting from a professional versus someone who's starting out, and they'd rather just pay less. So that's something that I'm like constantly fighting and having to battle. And it's not always the case, but it's funny that sometimes the bigger the client, the more you find that. So it's like the one, like when you go to a coffee shop, right? Like the woman draping in pearls, like takes her 17 cents back. And the construction worker who come in, like tips you $1 on your coffee. Like it's just that it's just a lack of understanding, I think.
With the murals because you had these crazy, huge murals. What's the biggest one that you've done? Like, because they look pretty massive, right?
The tallest was 45 feet.
Jeez.
So
crazy.
Multiple stories.
Yeah. Have you ever done, I just had a thought of this, like a QR code, for example, or something that is on the mural down the bottom corner, for example, that people could then scan and then witness the actual story of how the mural came to be? Like, have you done anything like that? Because I wonder, does that help to increase the perceived value? Whereas, if they did it the other way, then it's, someone just came out of college and now they just did it for the lowest price.
Right.
Versus there being an actual story behind it and how it was conceptualized and how it came to be.
I've never done the QR code. I mean, you put your like hand, and there is often, depending, like if I did a project with the Downtown San Diego Partnership, which is like coincides with the city of San Diego. And we did this whole write-up about the meaning of the mural, and it was by the major, like the train station. So the kind of hub. So there were all these different layers of it, but we have never actually like put a QR code on the,
right.
Because most of the times too, you're being hired. Sometimes there's a public client, but often they're private clients. And so they're hiring you to perform a service. And so the like branding part of it,
really?
It's always different per client. But I also do think those for murals, everyone loves a mural, right? Every restaurant, especially in San Diego, I'm sure there's tons of them all over Austin, I've noticed too, but like you can't have a new restaurant
LA,
or a new building,
those,
anything. You have to have art in the space. But it's funny that I will so often see, influencers or like brands do campaigns in front of my murals, and I'm not credited at all. Like they tag the location, or they'll like put the location in the print, whatever. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to name names, but like they just have this whole little branding campaign using my art, and like no one asked permission and no one credited. So there's multiple layers of, it's like the production of it, and then like if someone's just tried to claim like one of your songs was theirs, or just like put it in one of their, like the rights to it and the ownership and the copyright, like there's so many levels of things that are just dismissed. And again, I don't think it's an intentional, it's not like a dig, like, haha. It's just a lack of understanding or like thinking about it from the perspective of the one who's making it.
Take us back for a moment longer.
Okay.
Upbringing, Stefanie. Were there moments that you just lock yourself away, drawing away, for example? Was there these moments like what? Because I'm always interested as to what has someone continue, right? And I know the support was there.
Yeah.
Right. That part was there. What else was needed there in order for you to continue?
It's just an innate drive, like a need to, like I need to do it.
To.
Yeah.
So this is a must for you.
Yeah. I can't not do it. Like I don't feel like my own self when I'm not. Like when I'm not, I'm constantly wanting to produce and to play. It's always been.
It's always been there. So there's a knowing as to who you are in that regard. For those listening, I think there's a big difference between, I'll ask someone a question and go, like, are you going to do this? If someone says, oh yeah, I want to make this change, or even like I you know what, I really need to get in shape. Let's use that as an example. Yeah.
Versus
it being a must.
Yeah.
Like I must do this. I must make this happen. It's completely different energy. It's completely different discipline. It's completely different conviction and commitment to the outcome that you're aiming to achieve. And knowing that about yourself, owning that, because for a lot of people, they'll go through, and I think with your upbringing, what you shared, you had the supportive nature. Whereas if someone who's listening to this and they had this experience where they knew what they wanted, but then there was a non-supportive environment around, then what can often happen, I've seen this happen so many times, you go in conflict with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's I want to be approved. I want to feel loved. I want to feel like I'm enough to the people around me. Often it's family. But then there's this pull, but I also want to do what I love and what lights me up. And it's this pull. I definitely went through that at different times. And it took for me to own it, of just going, I'm going to pursue what it is that I want.
Yeah.
And it becoming a must in that regard, that I can't not do this.
Right.
That's when things really shift. And so I think anyone listening to this, if you were thinking about, okay, what's it going to take? That's a big part of it, of what can you do to turn this into a must? What can you do to take it from, I'd like to do that one day. It's like, that might be a few years off right?
Yeah.
Versus, no, this is a must for me. What's it going to take?
Well, I think it's also, I mean, for me, and I would say this is probably true for most artists, but art is also like my therapy. I mean, it's my safe space. So one of the feedback, speaking on social media and all that I get so much too, is like, we want to see the process. Like, we want to be there with you while you're making it. And I'm like, that's my safe space. Like, no one's allowed in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I'm actually making, having to like record it, and like that takes you out of that brain. It takes you out of that process, and it interrupts it in a way that I don't want to do. So despite, I know how valuable that would be and how much people would resonate with it, but like that's my space. And there's very little that's like just mine, you know?
And you wouldn't put a video on and just let it run without even having to think about it?
You know it's there.
You do.
You always know it's there.
Yeah, right.
And then also you're like, am I dressed? Like, am I, you know, like.
Right.
There's just so many things. But then you have to actually like edit afterwards. What are you going to do with it? You have to take it. And I don't like that. So, so there's just so many pieces, but anyway.
Yeah. I love that you're taking that. Like there's these safe spaces. And sometimes for me, like specifically on the piano, again, the guitar's been a number of years, but nothing like the piano. Like I can sit down at the piano, close my eyes, or be in the pitch black, and I can just go, right? And just play whatever flows through. And it's one of my favorite things. And every now and then there'll be a recording that I'll do of it because I put a camera on. But most of the time it's just that what I guess love about that specifically, of it just not being recorded in any way in those moments, it's purely for the purpose of creating
art for art's sake
in that moment.
And
that's a really cool feeling of knowing that whatever is created in this moment will never exist again. There's something really nice about that. Heartbreaking at the same time because like if something beautiful is created, but then it's like never again. But then it's just like, that's the moment. It's what I really love about a storytelling as well, is that you've got a story about something, you're sharing that story from experience, and never at any time, at any moment in the future, will the experience of that telling that story be experienced in the same way.
It's one of a kind.
Yeah.
Even though, even though things live on, I think there's so much of it that is just, it's like fleeting.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Do you look back on certain pieces and I know what I was going through when I was experiencing that, or at a certain time in your life, or where you were? Is there anything like that that occurs for you or not?
It sometimes, definitely.
Yeah.
I work these, like in the past, number of years, I work very intuitively. So I'm kind of building out the work that I'm making without a very clear plan of what it's going to look like at the end.
So you don't know what it's going to be at the end. That's
most of the time. I have a general, like something that's leading the way, but it's interesting that you say that, because this was actually something I was going to say earlier. about my like studio being my solace, but my 16-year-old dog passed last month. Wow. Thanks. I know he was 16.
That's a good run.
But he was my little, he's your baby, and
they're a massive part of our life. We've got a 1-year-old we're on the other end of the spectrum. Yeah. She's very quickly become a massive part of our lives. So I can only imagine 16 years, been through so much together, right?
And I knew it was it's coming.
Yeah,
but
it
hit me so much harder than I anticipated.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting to me is my only like refuge or my like way of coping with it was like going to the studio. I literally canceled, like I couldn't even be people facing. I was very surprised at how much it hit me. But I just went to the studio and I just started playing. And I was like, this is my escape. And I created a whole collection in that week that I released after. And it's nothing like any of the other work I've ever made. It's like kind of sparked from an idea, but it was just me playing and me being like, I need to keep my mind and my hands occupied so I'm not just dwelling in the sadness. And something like really wonderful came from it. But I think that speaks so much to like that collection. I very much was like in that very specific space, and I'll always remember that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just play for play, and you're just making it to kind of see where it goes. So, but again, I do a lot of commission work as well, and it's like for a client with a specific objective, and this is what they want. So there's very different kind of brains and processes depending on what it is you're making and for who and why.
With the commission work, is there any creative control that you have in there where, okay, you've got the guidelines, if you will, but then you're able to still play in that space?
So one of the things that I'm very, I think I'm very strict about, well, in the way of building a brand, I'm like, does this fit within the ecosystem of my brand? Does this feel like me still? And I don't take on work that doesn't align. Like if I'm not going to like the final product, I'm not going to do it. Like no matter what the paycheck is going to be, or no matter who it is, like I'm just not going to do that work to start with. So that's one. But I think the other is that much of the beauty and the kind of nuance of the work that I create is in when my clients they trust me. They trust my aesthetic and my education and my professionalism around what I'm doing and making. And I think I've never really had an experience, fortunately, where I wasn't able to kind of very purposefully bring my voice through in the work. And so I don't know if that's just in the way that me being smart about choosing the right projects and clients.
It sounds like you've been very good at setting some pretty solid boundaries from early on.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that it's just necessary, because if you're just painting everyone's cat and, all the things that other people want you to do, you don't have a voice. And I think that's the only way that an artist is going to evolve, is if you have a point of view and you have a voice and you make sure that shows through. Otherwise, whose work is this?
Yeah.
Right. So from my 45-foot tall murals to like my tiny little petite paintings to the brand work that I do, like you can still feel that it's me and that I made it, regardless of what it is or what medium I'm using. So I think that's one of the most, for any artist listening, like that's one of the most important things that I would say is just necessary. And really keeping that integrity around what you're doing and what your voice is.
Well, for those listening then, and whether they are an artist, creative in any creator in any type of way, or they have that within them that they've lost sight of, for example, and they're wanting to maybe pursue that more, or I would say even from a creative standpoint, wanting to nurture more creativity in their lives. Because I think it's a massively important skill as we continue to move into a world that is rapidly evolving, right? Yeah. And the changes occurring. For those folks, what would you recommend that maybe the steps they would take in order to make more time for that, to nurture that? How would they go about that?
Making more time just to do it?
Yeah.
Like
so
the actual practice of it?
Yeah. So it's because, again, this could be an artist like actually painting something, or a musician, for example. It could be someone giving themselves permission to actually dedicate some more time to that because they're busy.
Yeah.
Or it could be someone just, again, wanting to nurture the level of creativity, like a curious nature to them that have been maybe stuck in their ways for a period of time. I know that was me for a number of years. So like for those folks, and maybe there's different answers for each, but just thinking about.
I think that the first thing that comes to mind is just to not be tied to the outcome.
It's really
and I
good.
think that we need to be at play, and especially when you're experimenting or where you're trying to find your voice or trying to like figure out what you even want to express or what you're trying to say, is just totally abandon any kind of productivity around it or like having a final product, because forcing that, it takes away from all of the special things that happen in the process of play. And so it's something that I even had to fight for a while, is like, well, what's the end result of this? Am I wasting time? Like I don't even have anything to show, but that time ends up showing down the line, and it's invaluable. And so that's my number one, because you could take it so many different ways based on what it is you're doing, but just go into it knowing that, the end product does not matter at all. It's the process of making it.
Let's drill down on that a little bit, because I big time agree with you that, yes, we can have a clarity of, okay, here's kind of an outcome that I'm aiming to achieve if in a way, like maybe I'm wanting to create something, maybe I wanted to paint something, maybe I wanted to come up with a solution to a specific problem that I have. But then the playing in the space of the unknown and not having to have an answer, not needing to know. There was a song I wrote years ago that had the lyrics in it, clarity comes from not knowing at first, all in time, my friend. Right? And the other one that I want to mention is that I had this experience I was in Turkey in 2020. I got blocked from boarding my flights in another part of over in that part of the world, and had to leave the Schengen region in order to be allowed back into the US because of the visa that I was on at the time. It was a shit show, right? And I found a place that had a piano in it, this music store that had these rehearsal rooms. So I went in and sat down and booked in for like 2 or 3 hours and sat down. The room is so boring. Like there was nothing in it other than a clock on the wall and just 4 walls and just a piano plonked in there. And so it was definitely not the place that I would choose as my place of choice for creative expression, right? So I sat down though, and about 20, 30 minutes in, I found myself getting frustrated because I like nothing was really coming through. It was almost like I needed it to be a certain way, right? And that would be me needing the outcome to be something. Like I need to write a song while I'm here. This has to occur. This has to occur. And I just let go of that and just said, you've got this amount of time. You've booked it in, right? Which would be an example, would be like put it in your calendar, for example. It was booked in. I go, dude, just play, see what happens. And so I just played away for a while and I ended up writing this song. And it ended up being a very impactful song for me personally, because I realized how much my values were shifting. In the chorus, it's I just want to feel I'm home again. It wasn't so long ago that home was wherever I went. Now it's getting a little old. A part of me loves the freedom, but so much of me is tired. So what if I need a little calm in my life? And it was me shifting from being fully nomadic and just going wherever I'm going, suitcase, backpack, and just away I went, to now being here in Austin, my beautiful wife, Brittany, our dog, and I've got a piano. We've got this whole studio, like everything is set up. And it's a very different lifestyle to what it was. I didn't know it at the time when I created that song, but there was something going on internally of a shift of values. And my values did shift. My value number one at that time was freedom. Yeah. Freedom is down the list now. It's still in my top 5, 6 values, but number one now is mastery.
Yeah.
And mastery and developing that level of mastery wasn't as conducive to that old lifestyle. And I had no idea that this was shifting at the time. And I wonder, would it have taken me a little bit more time, or would have it gone in a different direction as to me actually understanding myself? And I think that's something that's beautiful about the creation of art, in whichever way or way, shape or form we express ourselves. It tends to enable us to maybe understand ourselves or understand the world a little better, or clarify some things, or make it completely confusing at the same time, like on the other end of the spectrum, which at some stage leads to something else. Like, I think that's what's beautiful about it is not needing it to be a certain way and allowing it to be what it's going to become. So I very much resonate with that of not needing to have a specific outcome.
It's interesting because when I look back, I discovered that I found my voice by looking at what I was doing. It wasn't an intentional,
Share more about that.
When I was like starting off my full-time, career, I was making a lot of work. I, had the gallery, and that's kind of my home base, but that was like the crux of my business at the time was just the gallery. And so I was just spending a lot of time like making work, but I hadn't fully formed the brand part of it yet. I had a lot of it was clear, but not all of it was. And my voice as an artist was on its way, but it wasn't fully formed. So I always feel like I have had this way of kind of working middle out. So instead of like, if you were writing a paper or a song, instead of starting with like, this is what I'm going to prove, I just started writing and then being like, what did I just say? And so it's the same way when I was painting, I'm like, let's just see what consistencies I find between all of the things that I'm making. And then I would look back and I would say, oh, like these things are like this feminine point of view, this like color system, regardless of what it was I was painting, I found these consistent things that were carried through in all of the work that I was making when I didn't have any specific intent for that work. And so I think there's just something to say about that process too. Sometimes we're so tied to, to the outcome or we almost like we build a brand before we have a product, right? Like sometimes the product needs to come first and the product and the response to the product even is going to help really finalize that or help you at least see what it is that you're trying to say. We don't always know. And I think that that's fine. I think we often in the world of productivity and efficiency and competition, we want to get there so quickly. And I think that especially in creative fields is a huge detriment. So just allowing that space for discovery and for just reflection was very valuable for me in my process. And again, I said I took the long road to get where I did. So I had to kind of, things were set up in a way that did allow me to do that. But it's something that I would really say, to think about as a creative, like it's not always start to finish.
This goes for, I think, across the spectrum of those creating something from a business standpoint as well. I massive paraphrasing of the quote that Steve Jobs said in one of his talks, but it was, you can't necessarily see the dots looking forward and the way they connect. It's only through looking back that you actually get to understand that, and you get to witness and see it and in action. So that this goes for not only those that are creating art, but across the board. Is there any other suggestions that you have? So not being attached to the outcome is a big one. Reflecting back and seeing, is maybe like see if there's any patterns, if you in a way, like is there any, and I think maybe that goes for like being able to look back and seeing the patterns of work that you're creating, but also are there certain patterns that I'm exhibiting in a relationship, or are there certain patterns when it comes to my own self-worth? Are there certain patterns that create, because it's through those patterns that things evolve and create into something else. And if it's allowing you to get the results you want, then you continue doing that, which, the different artwork you're doing. If it's not, then that's where you have the opportunity to be able to change something as well through that reflective practices, right?
To recognize and then pivot. If you're like, this isn't actually serving me the way I thought it was.
Yeah. So we've got those couple. Is there anything else that you can think of?
For the way of saying you're like wanting to start this new practice and you really want to turn it into something. Because I think there's making art to make art. Art is self-expression. We make it because we're, we need to, we'll say. But for turning it into something, I think, that finding your voice is the most important part. And that could take 6 months. It could take 5 years. But once you've found the voice, start thinking about your platform. So, and that could mean, again, multiple things, but like, where is it going to live? Like, who's it going to live with? How is your work or whatever it is that you're making or doing? Like, how is it going to exist? And what role is it playing? And I think creating, that's sort of the basis of, or the foundation of the ecosystem that I've talked about building out, is really like finding the voice and then finding your platform. And whether that's showing up personally and meeting hundreds and hundreds of people all the time and like sharing that way, or doing it online, or, you know, I'm always speaking to the visual arts because that's what I know. But there's so many different ways these days to share what it is you're doing. And I think timing's important. Share all the time, you know, whatever you want. But once you found your voice and you're ready to take it to that next level, think about how you're sharing it and what your positioning is, what you're wanting to say about it and what the objective is. And like starting with that kind of foundation is really, I just think, really valuable. It's something I'd really recommend thinking about, like if it did meet its full potential, right? And what would that look like? What's the basis that you need for that to grow into what you want it to be? I'm very much an advocate of like not skipping steps because I think there's so much you lose on the fast track.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think that asking yourself the question of, okay, is this something that I'm simply just going to create for the sake of creating it?
Right.
Or is it something, like as you mentioned, the wording of turning it into something, then all of a sudden there's a commercial viability to that. And that comes with a whole raft of different actions that need to be taken in order to build something like this. So,
and is it just because you want validation, or is it because you're trying to make money, or is it because, you know, who knows what reason you're doing, you're making something. But I think that that's also very personal to every person. And it's something you want to be thinking about and not just like going through the motions of, because then you can get stuck in a place where you're like, how did I end up here? And this isn't even, you know, how did we get here? So
this has been a great conversation. We got a rapid fire segment on the show called Your Edge.
Okay.
We got these 3 questions based around values, beliefs, and habits. What's your number one value and why?
Integrity, 100%. In my life, in my work, I feel like I, as a human, and we as humans are here to live, you know, to our higher purpose in alignment. And you can't do that without integrity. It keeps you grounded. It keeps us human. That's number one.
Love that. What's a belief that shaped who you've become, whether it's a belief about yourself, about others, about the world?
I don't know if it's even a belief, but kind of just, again, trusting my instincts and my gut. I think some of the things when I look back that I would consider perhaps the most out of character were truly the things that moved the needle for me. And as I've gone through my like kind of adult reflection of my life and all the things, I found that what I thought was out of character was actually who I am. I just was still learning about myself and discovering who I was. And you're conditioned in a certain way and you know certain things about yourself. And so for me, just like trusting those things, you're like, that feels weird that I want to do this, but I do. Just really trusting yourself. And there's so much that I've learned about myself by just following those nudges that seem like they weren't me.
Like counterintuitive in that moment.
Sort of
in
like,
a way. Yeah.
So just really trusting my gut and believing in myself and that I knew what was best for me. Yeah.
Yeah. What about a habit? What's a habit, routine, or ritual that you can't live without, whether it's a daily basis right out to an annual tradition?
9 hours of sleep a night is a non-negotiable. Hands down. I mean, I don't even, everyone who knows me personally knows I'm like first to arrive, first to leave.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired. So
are you up early? So that means like going to bed super.
No, I want to just sleep as much as I have, even as a kid, like I had to take naps when my younger brother didn't. Like I've just needed a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
So no, I want to go to bed early and I want to sleep in late. It's the only
Both,
way to get through it. Because I'm like running around like the Energizer Bunny for the other 12 hours of the day. So I'm like, my body, I think just needs a lot of time to like come down and then to like refuel.
So more and more studies are showing just the sheer importance of sleep quality as well. I know for me, continuing to work on increasing the amount of sleep and the quantity and the quality of sleep is important. So
I know it's not exciting, but it's you know.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where can people go to find out more? Whether it's your gallery, whether they want to go and actually check it out in San Diego itself, or where to find you online otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in San Diego, I'm in Little Italy, which is just the outskirts of downtown, from right by the airport. So you can just look me up. Everything's just under Stefanie Bales Fine Art. So I have a website. It's just Stefanie Bales. I'm on social media across all platforms at Stefanie Bales Fine Art. So would love to connect and keep in touch. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for those tuning in, we'll have everything that was mentioned linked in the show notes at CameronAtlas.com/podcast. We've got some great new guests coming up. So make sure you hit that follow button, leave a comment. And until next time, go and write the next line in your story. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode here on The Edge of Possible.